On a cold December morning in 1903, in the windswept dunes of Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, two brothers made humanity's first controlled, powered flight. Their names were Wilbur and Orville Wright, and they were not engineers, not trained scientists, not even wealthy inventors. They were bicycle mechanics with big dreams, an obsession with flight, and an unshakable belief that ordinary people could achieve the impossible. What began as a homemade experiment in a small workshop changed the world forever. But their journey was anything but simple, full of crashes, failures, skepticism, and even betrayal. And today, more than a century later, nearly every modern flying machine, from passenger jets to drones and even space rockets, still traces its origins back to the Wrights' work. This is their story, and the story of 10 revolutionary machines and technologies born from the dream of flight they made real. 1. From Dayton to the sky, the brothers' early life. The Wright brothers were born in Dayton, Ohio. Wilbur in 1867, Orville in 1871. They grew up curious, inventive, and surrounded by tools. Their father was a bishop, but also a man who encouraged creative thinking. When they were kids, he brought home a small toy helicopter powered by rubber bands. It fascinated them. That tiny wooden contraption sparked an idea that would never leave their minds: the dream of flight. As young men, they opened a bicycle repair and sales shop, which would later fund their experiments. They studied birds, wind, and balance. They built gliders. They failed, crashed, rebuilt, again and again. Unlike others who thought flight was only about power, the Wrights focused on control, how to balance and steer in the air just like a bird. That insight was the key. 2. The breakthrough. Kitty Hawk, 1903. In December 1903, after years of testing, they brought their latest machine, the Wright Flyer, to the sandy beaches of Kitty Hawk. It had a wooden frame, muslin wings, and a homemade 12-horsepower engine they built themselves. At 10:35 a.m. on December 17th, Orville Wright climbed aboard. The plane shuddered, lifted off, and stayed in the air for 12 seconds, traveling 120 feet. It doesn't sound like much, but that brief flight changed history. 3 more flights followed that day, the longest lasting 59 seconds. The dream of controlled, powered flight had become reality, and though the world barely noticed at first, the age of aviation had begun. 3. The struggle for recognition. Despite their success, the Wright brothers faced skepticism and secrecy. Few believed 2 unknown bicycle makers had solved flight. Newspapers ignored them. Other inventors tried to copy or discredit their work. Determined to protect their design, the Wrights filed patents and continued improving their planes in secret. They only began public demonstrations in 1908 and stunned the world. Wilbur performed long, graceful flights in France, while Orville flew before military officials in the US. The Wrights went from obscure inventors to global celebrities almost overnight, but their obsession with patents led to fierce legal battles, draining their energy and reputation. By the time Wilbur died in 1912, the age of flight had already outgrown them, but not their legacy. 4. The legacy takes off. From canvas to metal by the 1920s, flight had moved beyond fragile wooden wings and fabric-covered frames. Inspired by the Wrights' breakthroughs in control and lift, engineers began building metal airplanes capable of carrying passengers and cargo. The Wrights' system of 3-axis control, pitch, roll, and yaw, became the foundation of all modern aviation. Their principles still guide the design of Boeing, Airbus, and even NASA spacecraft. It's not just about engines or wings, it's about balance, stability, and the mastery of air itself. 5. The first passenger plane, the DC-3. One of the first true heirs to the Wright legacy was the Douglas DC-3, launched in 1935. With a metal body, reliable engines, and room for over 20 passengers, it revolutionized travel. Before the DC-3, air travel was dangerous and exclusive. After it, flying became safe, practical, and, for the first time, commercially viable. Even today, some DC-3s still fly. It was the first plane that made the Wrights' dream of connecting the world by air a reality. 6. The jet age, breaking the sound barrier. In 1947, test pilot Chuck Yeager became the first person to break the sound barrier, flying faster than the speed of sound in the Bell X-1. The physics that allowed such speed, control surfaces, lift dynamics, and pressure balance were all built on the Wrights' principles. The Wright Flyer was a whisper compared to Yeager's rocket-like craft, but the dream was the same, pushing the limits of flight. That breakthrough opened the door to the jet age, bringing us commercial jets, fighter planes, and soon, spaceflight. 7. Helicopters and vertical flight. Another child of the Wright legacy is the helicopter. Though early inventors had dreamed of vertical flight for centuries, it wasn't until the mid-20th century that technology caught up. Designers like Igor Sikorsky used the Wright's control concepts to create the first stable, controllable helicopter. From military rescues to city transport, helicopters transformed the idea of flight, showing that humans could master not just forward motion, but vertical lift as well. 8. Drones and unmanned flight. In the 21st century, we've entered a new age of flight, one the Wright brothers could never have imagined. Drones or unmanned aerial vehicles now map terrain, deliver packages, record videos, and even save lives. Yet at their core, drones still use the same logic of aerodynamic control the Wrights invented in 1903. Their dream has evolved, from humans flying machines to machines flying themselves. 9. Spaceflight, the final extension of the dream. When Neil Armstrong stepped onto the moon in 1969, he carried a small piece of the Wright Flyer with him, literally. NASA included fragments of the flyer's wood and fabric aboard Apollo 11, honoring the men who first conquered the skies. From the Wright Flyer to the Saturn V rocket, it took just 66 years, one human lifetime, to go from a beach in North Carolina to the surface of the moon. That's the power of an idea that refused to stay grounded. 10. Electric and sustainable flight. The next frontier. Today, engineers are reimagining flight once again, with electric engines, hybrid propulsion, and zero-emission aircraft. Companies like Airbus, Joby Aviation, and Boom Supersonic are pushing toward a future where flight is faster, cleaner, and more accessible than ever. Even flying cars and air taxis are in development, something straight out of science fiction. And every one of these innovations, no matter how advanced, owes a silent debt to those two brothers who once launched a fragile machine into the sky and changed everything. Conclusion: the dream that never landed. The Wright brothers didn't just invent a machine, they invented a way of thinking, of questioning limits, testing ideas, and daring to believe that the impossible could fly. Their story is proof that innovation doesn't come from privilege, it comes from persistence. From dusty bicycle shops to lunar landings, their influence stretches across every engine, wing, and orbit. And as we look to the future of flight, electric, supersonic, or interplanetary, we carry their legacy in every takeoff. The Wright brothers' dream never landed. It just kept flying higher,